So welcome back to X-Files Revisited, and we're going to jump straight into episode 12, which is Fire. And the episode opens in England with some old guy and his young wife, kinda young anyway.
Yeah, for him.
Yeah, definitely. As he says hello to all his underlings as he's leaving the house, which, I mean, literally there must be about 6 folk working in his garden as he's leaving. And as he says hello to Cecil, I think it is.
Yeah, Cecil.
He's waving back to his wife when suddenly his arm bursts into flames, followed quickly by the rest of him as he falls into a black ashy pile in the middle of his lovely garden.
Oh. It's both a good and a bad opening, mainly because it's an intriguing opening in the sense that it sets up an intriguing villain. Mm-hmm. I think anyway, this guy who can control fire. Like instantly, that's kind of the way you read it. I don't think there's I don't think there's any kind of like, oh, what's going on here? Mm-hmm. Cecil, basically, the look that he has on his face, almost like the devil himself. You know this guy's responsible, but to what level he's controlling this fire, obviously, is what you're going to find out during the episode. So to me, that's an intriguing opening. Sets up a decent looking villain. But the thing about it that I guess is the downside of it is the interpretation of England. I guess is this.
Oh yeah.
England through the American lens, I guess, in which I don't know. I think during the 90s and maybe even to a certain extent still today, I think a lot of Americans think that all British seem to talk like this, darling, and have a cup of tea and have servants, and that the Irish always start the day off with top of the morning to you.
It's your stereotypical opening. I mean, I was surprised the guy that burst into flames didn't have a monocle. It was that ridiculous. But yeah, the opening scene I think that's what set me off for this episode on the wrong foot straight away.
I will, however, defend the number of gardeners that are in his garden doing his thing, because I actually did a bit of landscape gardening. It was before my back went a few years ago. I worked for a garden centre and I did landscape gardening, and we went to a few posh houses. And there was times when there was like 3 or 4 of us doing one garden at any one time. So that doesn't bother me all that much, to be honest.
Fair enough. It's just the fact that he knew everybody's name as well as he left the house. It's just weird. But then you get this theme music and it jumps straight into Mulder and Scully chit-chatting, because they've just been to a court case and they're talking about how unusual it is for them when they're chasing little green men. And they go to the car and the car's unlocked, and Mulder's pretty positive that he had locked it. And when they get inside, there's a cassette tape, which for anybody that wasn't around at that time, that's the old MP3 player. And they stick the tape in to play. And it's an English voice telling an ominous story about a socialite in England who went into his car, found a tape like this, and when he went to leave the car exploded. And there's some very good graphic descriptions of how the car exploded, how the violent the outburst was. When somebody opens the door, Mulder and Scully kind of get a little bit of a fright, and it turns out to be an old friend of Mulder's.
Not just an old friend, but an old flame.
Yes, I know. That's an interesting pun. You might have seen it as an old flame. I seen it as a very, very damp squid for an episode.
Right.
I did not like this character.
See, this is it, right? Now, the last episode, I talked about one thing, which is basically the sticking point as to whether or not you like or loathe this episode. Now, I dislike this character, but I think you're meant to dislike this character. And for me, therein lies the reason why I accept this episode on its own terms. Because I don't think that anybody is asking us to like this character. this character serves a purpose. She serves a few purposes actually throughout the episode, and to me that's why I still go along with this. I think she is in many ways a villain in the episode, just not to the same level as Cecil is. So yeah, for me, it's not a bad thing that I dislike this character.
No, I think you're right. You're supposed to dislike the character, and that's fair enough. But when I say I dislike the character, I guess I mean I dislike the effect it has on Mulder, which pretty much makes him do things that I don't see that character doing. You know, and even when they talk about the relationship, 10 years has passed. He's a different person than he once was. And some of the choices and some of the decisions he makes throughout this episode turns him into somebody that I don't particularly like. Especially the way he handles his relationship with Scully throughout this episode.
But do you not think that that's truthful, though? Like, I can tell you now that, like, okay, for example, before my wife, I only had one girlfriend. I was in a relationship for 2 years with this other girl, and that's the only other person I ever went out with before my wife. Now, if she came back into my life in some way, that would be horrendous because, yeah, because she knows things about me that, she could say things about me that, quite frankly, would make me feel uncomfortable around my wife. I'm giving far too much information about my personal life.
Give more. I mean, if you've got this woman's number, feel free to tell me just now. Yeah.
The thing that I'm saying is, I buy that somebody with the strength of character like Mulder could actually, if you put the right person, or in this case the wrong person, from your past into the smack bang into the middle of your personal life as it is now, you could really upset the apple cart to the point that it actually makes you behave in a different manner. And if there is so much personal stuff tied up in that, because this isn't just some friend that's shown up. This is someone that Mulder clearly has had a sexual relationship with. And to me that is it's very different. And because this isn't just a relational thing on a sexual level, it's also something on a intellectual and psychological level, because these are both two very intelligent people. This woman, as much as we dislike her, she's very intelligent. She's an Oxford grad. She plays mind games. We see this right off the bat when she uses this cassette tape in the car. She knows Mulder's fears, and she uses it instantly against him to rock the boat. And to me, that's what makes her an interesting character. Not a likeable one. I don't at any point like her, but I find her interesting in the sense of, again, like what you feel she does to Mulder, you don't like. Whereas what I feel she does to Mulder, I find it interesting from a psychological standpoint, from a character standpoint. But that's just me. I know that many fans of the show were exactly in your camp. I think when it comes to X-Files fandom, I'm in the minority when it comes to this episode for some bizarre reason.
Which is strange that I even watching the episode, I was stuck because there's certain things about it that I thought were really well done. But a lot of the interactions, like I said, the relationship between Mulder and Scully, which I feel has been such a strong part of the episode, takes a back seat here. There is some scenes near the end that shows how their relationship strengthened a little bit, but again, I just had a sheer hatred for this woman, and it may have coloured my full opinion of this episode, but damn, I just couldn't stand her. I couldn't stand what she did to Mulder. But we'll get to that throughout the episode.
But is that not just a sign of how close you've become to Mulder, though, as a character? Is that not a sign that actually this show has done the task of building these characters up so well that...
Do you know, I'm going to just stop with you a little bit, because it's not about Mulder in this episode. I actually feel more for Scully.
Yeah, but that's the point. Shouldn't you, though?
I don't feel how she's affected Mulder. I feel the fact that the way Scully's so dismissed in this episode, when she's done nothing but stand by Mulder, I think it's probably what offends me most about it. Yeah, because she really is dismissed. You know, he says it in a haphazard way. I won't put this one on you. You know, I won't force you to go on this investigation with me. He's not even giving her a chance to go. He's telling her that she's to stay behind.
Yeah, but do you not think that he's defending himself there? He doesn't want to make himself vulnerable in front of Scully. And two, he's defending Scully because he knows the kind of mind games that this woman's going to play. And he's protecting her in that regard.
I think, even though she knows he plays mind games, I think Mulder wants rid of Scully so he can have his way with Phoebe.
Oh, really? You get that from the episode?
Yeah, and there's a specific line later on where he says...
Oh, man, no way.
There's a bit later on where Scully phones up and is like, "Oh, Mulder, I've got some key evidence for you. This will really help you." And he's like, I can't really meet you later on. I'm going to have my hands full. And that is just after she's told him that Phoebe's booked a hotel room later on, and gives him a look.
No, see, I read that completely differently. I don't see that as Mulder thinking he's going to have his hands full in the physical sense. I think he's talking intellectually. I think he's anticipating her to come on strong with him, and he's anticipating having to have a real long talk with her to say, you know what, you messed my head up. And you seriously need to chill out and do one. Like, I don't at any point during this episode think that Mulder wants to get back with this woman. I think that he's completely the opposite. He's troubled by the fact that she's back in his life, and he doesn't want her there.
No, but that's a difference of opinion again. I think he's fully expecting to have an out-of-body experience.
No, that's just not the way I read it at all.
Well, let's go on to the episode and we'll see if we can stumble up any other points that we may have round about it. Basically, she's asking for Mulder's help because there's been a crime spree against is it politicians in the UK where they've been burnt alive.
Yeah.
And there's been an attempt on one. It didn't succeed, so that family has come to America to get out of the firing line, so to speak.
Yeah.
And they're basically just asking for his help on this case.
Yeah. And it's just, I like how she gets the reference in there about this guy setting Windsor Castle ablaze in 1992. Because for anybody who knows their history and who was around at that time, you'll remember the images on TV of Windsor Castle being ablaze. So, yeah, they were very quick to jump on that one.
Yeah, very good. And then it jumps to one of my favourite characters, the creepy arson professor guy, who's like stroking the screen and going, oh, beautiful, 1500 degrees Fahrenheit. She's a thing of beauty. And you're just like, dear God.
He sounds just a little bit too endowed with that picture, doesn't he? It's,
I don't know where they get these people from, but some of them are just excellent. That's one that it's creepy as hell, but I really like his performance. Yeah. It doesn't fit in with the episode totally, but
it's the Vancouver casting pool, I think.
Yeah, and he does mention spontaneous combustion, but he tries to say play it off as well as not really being plausible. But Mulder is definitely all about there being a fire starter.
Yeah, that guy gives an interesting fact actually that. I was wondering if it was true. I would imagine it was true, which is that some fires can burn so hot that actually to put water on them just fuels the fire because it turns the water instantly. It separates them into oxygen and hydrogen, which fuels the fire. So that's actually quite a scary prospect.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it was one fact that I hadn't heard either, but when they said it in the episode, I was like, that's a cool little nugget of information.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that would be terrifying if it is, putting water in a fire and making it stronger.
But the basic thing out of this is that the expert's a bit stumped, and he can't think of a way that the fire could be caused without an accelerant. So that introduces the idea that, yeah, this guy maybe can control fire, but he still needs to have something to start the fire to begin with, something that's flammable to get going.
Yeah. And then it jumps to Cape Cod, where someone is painting the walls with rocket fuel. Just your general over-the-counter tin of rocket fuel that you can get in any store, basically.
Hey, this house is smelling a bit funny, isn't it?
I know, it's just nobody's saying a thing. It's like, how's there not just a general accident happening because the place is doused in this stuff? Heaven forbid there's a power cut and somebody breaks out the candles. But we see that it's Cecil from the opening episode who introduces himself to the family as Bob. That's after he lights a cigarette without any lighter, which is a cool little scene.
And he, I like how the kids of this family, this is Sir Malcolm's family, the kids look like they're out of Children of the Damned.
Yes. It's the way they talk as well, is that proper English way, the full...
Oh man, it's so annoying. It's like...
It's something... it's a wonderful house.
Oh, and the kid gets out and says, hey, what a pleasant surprise. It's like, you just want to smack the little kid. It's just like... I'm not one for beating children, but...
Yeah. There's a few good scenes in this episode, but one of my favourite is, just to let us know that Cecil, Bob, I think I'm going to call him Bob from now on because he's just to let us know that he's a bad guy. He kicks a dog. Which is great, because he's obviously, he's killed the caretaker and the dog's, like, digging him up. He just gives it a good kick just to get out of the way.
I'll skin you alive, you little cur. So I like this actor, though, to be honest. I mean, I've seen him in quite a few other things. He's been in Firefly, he's been in Battlestar Galactica, which are two of my favourite science fiction shows of all time. So, yeah, I do like this guy, and this was the first thing I'd seen him in.
Yeah, as soon as I saw him, I recognised him from a TV show, Supernatural.
Yeah.
He was in that for a period of time as well. And he looks pretty much the same, just a little bit bigger, but pretty much identical to what he does here.
Yeah.
So Mulder and Scully discuss Phoebe and his strange fear of fire that he brings up, just for the sake of bringing it up. It's almost as if it's going to come into the script later on. He mentions his fear of fire. Yeah,
but it's not like it's... I think you're being overly critical there. It's not, they are now in a situation where actually, if Mulder's got a fear of fire, now would be the time to tell Scully about it. I don't think it's not like it comes out of the blue in the sense that why are you telling this story, Mulder? It's just I feel like okay, I buy it. I buy why he'd be telling her this right now. And it also feeds, again, into the psychological mind games that... what is this woman called? I forgot her name.
Phoebe.
Phoebe, that's it. It plays into the psychological mind games that Phoebe is playing. And again...
Yes, but Mulder and Scully have been in several adventures or mysteries so far. Have they not encountered fire before? Is this the first time where it has to be mentioned that he's got a fear of fire?
It's never really played a part on the level of this, where they're facing someone who could actually control fire, and the cases are all about people being burnt to a crisp. I don't know. I think I accept it. What I'm saying, look, maybe I'm being a little bit too lenient because of nostalgia's sake. But I think there's a middle ground between me and you somewhere. I think you're being overly critical of the scene, and maybe I'm giving it.
I found it rather clunky. It just seemed to be like all... I'm telling you all this because this is going to come into play later on in the story. She didn't really ask any questions. He just started volunteering information.
No, see,
and
to
then,
me,
and then when he finishes it off by going like, do you know what? You can just stay here and sit this one out, Scully. I don't need you almost.
no, see, again, it's just interpretation. That's not how I read it. He tells her this story about his fear of fire because he wants her to understand the psychological mind games that Phoebe plays and the power that she tries to have over him because of that. And he's telling it her because he doesn't want her to get embroiled in whatever games she is going to play. He likes her too much. He has too much respect for Scully to want to see that happen to her. So that is the way I read it.
But if he had all that respect for her, wouldn't he respect her opinion and hold her opinion more highly, that she'd be able to make her decisions for herself? Because she's not a hothead who jumps into situations or is easily led. She has proven before that she will make the tough decision if necessary. So why not bring that person with you as almost backup against this crazy bitch?
There's nothing. There's nothing stopping Scully at this point from saying, Mulder, I get what you're saying, but I'm a big girl. I can take care of myself. There's nothing stopping her from saying that.
Other than her partner just going like, I don't want you there.
No.
Effectively.
No, that's not the way I read the scene at all. He doesn't come on that strong. I think you're painting a slightly different picture of it myself. I think
it's like you said, it's all perception, but that's the way I read it.
Right. What I do like about that scene actually is when Scully first comes through the door, and we don't know it's Scully. We just hear the door open, and she says, "So Sherlock, is the game afoot?" And she's like, she puts on that proper kind of British Phoebe accent, and Mulder just like proper cacks himself when he hears a voice, and then the look on Scully's face when she knows that she's got him. Like,
so then we go back to Cape Cod, where Bob is ogling the wife before he talks to the driver, and just asks for a cigarette, asks him if he needs anything like some cough syrup, and then he wanders off into town, where he goes into a bar and a woman takes a liking to him and starts talking to him. And she goes to light a cigarette, and Bob pretty much just sets his finger on fire, which is a great scene.
Yeah.
She turns away to go like, "Hey guys, you need to check this out," and when she turns back, he's full arms ablaze.
And it's the reaction on his face as well. Just the way,
it's genuine fun.
Yeah, and that's it's a pretty impressive stunt as well to do. Because like clearly that's not a stunt man doing that; it's him doing it. I mean, obviously they've protected his hand with stuff, but yeah, it's still a pretty impressive stunt to have that much fire kind of on your body. But he acts with it. He doesn't let a fear of that fire get in the way of his performance. And I love the look on his face when he's like, ah, like kind of, he's almost like mocking the people who are screaming. And it's just, I love the performance there by this actor.
It looks really good as well. It's held up really well.
Yeah.
Probably because it's practical.
Yeah.
And then you have outside the hospital, where Mulder and Phoebe are talking about, are going to talk to the woman from the bar, who pretty much just tells the story of the previous scene. I think she doesn't add anything else to it, does she?
Well, she does. She says that he has the British accent, so that's So that's the thing that clues him into, that they're looking for.
Well, she says that after Phoebe and Mulder go outside and have a little argument, and then go back in, and then she says, "Oh, I've remembered one more thing."
Yeah,
the British accent. Yeah. So.
But I like this scene because again, we're seeing this. Mulder scolds Phoebe. He basically out and out says, like, you're manipulative. He calls her out on it right there and then. He doesn't look like he's got the warm and fuzzies for her, which is what you seem to suggest he has later on. And Phoebe kind of, again, instantly goes into manipulation. She acts like the hurt little puppy. And Mulder kind of gets a little bit sucked in. And then she goes in for the kind of sexual advance. And that's when Mulder says, you know what? Let's just stick to the work. And again, this is why I don't buy your later theory that he's going there for the sex. I think he's going there to say, you know, once and for all, look, stay out of my life. Just keep your distance. Stop playing mind games.
I think he says, like, just stop playing mind games. Let's get back to work, because he's trying to, like, distance himself from his feelings that he's obviously got.
I think he's called her out on a manipulation, and then he's been suckered in a little bit by that manipulation instantly after he's called it out. And then because he notices it, he says, you know what? I'm right. You're manipulative. Let's just stick to the case. That's his way of distancing himself.
Okay. Anyway, so the driver is very ill, and Bob says to him, you know, maybe it's the cough syrup, which instantly makes you feel like he's laced that with rocket fuel or whatever else. So it's back to the FBI, and we jump back to Scully, who's looking through the paperwork and is writing a report profiling the killer, and it's pretty much nailing Bob to a T.
Yeah, I love this profile that she writes.
Mm-hmm. It's excellent, and it's keeping her still in the episode, but it's just showing you how sort of like smart that she is, how much of an asset she is.
And we're seeing her profile, so we're hearing her voiceover doing this profile, and that's kind of being juxtaposed with these scenes of Bob interacting with the children, and he's trying to get them to have like puffs on cigarettes and whatnot, and it's like it's very creepy. It's almost like this kind of paedophilic kind of power game that Bob's going on. Just as Scully's talking about, this man kind of preys on weaker people, and he likes to have power over them. He uses, you know, his abilities, so to speak, as power, but to hide the fact that actually he's an impotent kind of man. He doesn't really know how to develop relationships in any proper way. So instead he does it through power, gaining power over people, and we see that being enacted in his relationship with these kids.
And that's just at the end of that is when the mother comes up and asks if Bob can help out tonight by driving them to a function. And then it jumps to Mulder and Phoebe, who do the walk and talk thing, where they mention the function. They agree to set a trap. There's some very obvious sort of chemistry between these two. She says that she's booked a room, gives Mulder a little look. Mulder gives a little look back as to go like, okay, I know what you're thinking, and I'm thinking the same thing. But you disagree with that?
I disagree with that. The look I see in his face. I mean, to be honest, the way
is it schoolboy glee that you see on his face?
What I see is dread on his face. Actually, I see.
As in, like, I know I'm going to do this. Dread.
Maybe, but not necessarily in the sense that because he wants to, but because I just think he's in a situation he doesn't want to be in, but he's a male, and he knows that at the end, you know, and it's not like Phoebe's an unattractive woman, you know, it's like... This scene... On you go. I just don't buy the fact that Mulder is, like, seeking this out. I don't think he's, like, looking for this. I don't think he's looking forward to it. I think he's actually dreading this. I don't think he wants to be in this situation, but he feels the pull. And that pull comes from having a history with this woman. Now, it's not like this is some woman who he's just met and he's like, "Whoa, she's fit." You know, he's got a history with her, and that confuses things. That clouds his mind. It clouds his judgment. But I don't think he's chasing her. I think he just feels himself being pulled into this thing that he doesn't know how to get out of.
It's this scene in conjunction with the next scene that makes me feel that way, because in the next scene you've got Scully, who's phoned up Mulder. She's told him that she's been looking into the case. She's got some evidence for him, and he pretty much just dismisses her again and says, "Oh, I can't meet tonight. I'm going to have my hands full." And he practically looks at the camera and winks when he says that. So it jumps pretty much to Mulder. He's at the function. He sees the family arrive. He sees Phoebe arrive. He checks her out in her black dress. And then he seems to be outside of the function, if I'm right. Is that what you got as well?
Yeah.
He wasn't actually. Yeah, he was in the outskirts of the function.
Yeah, he's kind of standing outside because he doesn't want to be there. That's the way I read it. He's kind of ambling around, going, "What the hell am I doing?" He
may not want to be there, but he has to be there.
Yeah,
there's a certain pull inside him that's dragging him towards that.
Well, he has to be there because he's on the case. He's working that case.
And Scully turns up. Well, just before that, sorry, Phoebe comes out and starts to slow dance with him in the middle of this large hallway, and then we see that Scully's watching them.
Yeah.
And then in a proper creepy scene, we see that Bob's watching Scully watching Mulder.
Yeah. It's like who's watching The Watchmen? It's like,
but he's literally, it's like a comedy sketch because he's hiding behind one leaf of a plant. And it's just like, well, that's kind of freaky. And then all of a sudden she sees the fire alarm panel going off from the 14th floor. And she says to Mulder and Phoebe, and Phoebe, I take it, gets the family out of there, and Mulder and Scully go up to the 14th floor to get the kids. Oh, no, sorry. It's just Mulder that goes up to the 14th floor to get the kids.
Yeah, Mulder goes up to get the kids, and it's Bob who rescues the kids. So
yes, Mulder has a panic attack and ends up lying in the middle of the hallway.
So he sees the fire coming out of the doorway, and basically, he just basically bottles it, and then we see Bob's feet basically running past, and he's carrying the kids.
Now, when this happened, did you expect Scully to appear and save him? Because I fully expected it, to see her heels just coming running along and dragging Mulder away. It wasn't until the firemen appeared that I was like, all right, okay, well, maybe not this time. But I fully expected her to turn up and save him yet again.
Yeah, it would be par for the course, wouldn't it, really? But we missed the scene where Scully is given some immigration data that she asked for. Obviously, the fact that the woman in the bar gave them this detail about the guy was British, that made Scully look into the immigration. Who's come over, basically, who's come over with his family and whatnot. So yeah, she gets details of who the guy might be, who the killer is, and this is the information she is trying to give to Mulder. But yeah, so Mulder wakes up after his little jaunt with the fire, after he's been saved by the firemen, and that's when Scully is there to kind of give this information to him.
She's by his bedside, waiting on him waking up.
Yeah.
Just showing again our loyalty.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even when he abandoned her, she was never going to abandon him, almost.
Yeah. Abandon, protection, potato, whatever. Depends on how you read it. But look, I get that Mulder hasn't conducted himself in the best manner, but I don't think that it's purely down to the motives that you're suggesting. I think that a lot of mind games are being played against him, and yeah, I think that's clearly demonstrated in the episode. But
so, on you go.
Where are we?
Scully's about to show him the evidence.
Yeah, so Scully gives him a drink, and he's angry with himself for herring out, as he puts it. And Scully asks about the driver as Phoebe walks in, and Phoebe because obviously.
Hang on a wee sec. Can we just talk about one other thing?
Yeah, well.
Just when Mulder gets up out the sick bed and he's getting dressed, and Scully asks him what happened, he doesn't try to cover up or to make any bravado lies about it. That he just turns around and says he panicked.
Yeah.
He completely and it's quite a good moment. He doesn't feel the need to lie, to cover up, or to feel ashamed of what actually happened. He just says that, I panicked, I froze, I couldn't move, I don't know what happened.
It shows the difference between their relationship and the relationship he has with Phoebe. He's able to be open. He's able to be honest with Scully.
I just like that little scene because it's small. It's in the middle of a bigger scene, and you could quite easily miss it. But it's just that the fact that he just opens up, and it's not a big deal's made about it. Yeah. He says it, she accepts it.
No, you're right. It is a good Mulder Scully moment, I think. Yeah. But yeah, so Scully asks about the driver because obviously she saw this guy in the lobby. He's like, oh no! It's at this point. It's because
he is the driver.
Yeah, because he is the driver. So. But she saw him in the lobby. She knows that he's the guy who saved the kids. But moments before the fire, she saw him in the lobby. So she's a bit inquisitive. She's like, do we know anything? What do we know about the driver? And that's when Phoebe overhears her asking and basically says that the driver's checked out. So obviously the driver's checked out on paper, but they don't realise that isn't the usual driver, that he's filling in for someone. And Phoebe goes on to say that the Marsden family are leaving and that she's going with them before saying goodbye, basically.
Mm-hmm. And that's, like I said, Scully gives some other information to Mulder after that, and Mulder rushes out after them, saying the semi-dressed. And I think Scully says to him, where are you going? And he says, I need to go and stop Phoebe before she goes. Again, it led me to the fact that he didn't want her to leave.
Well, I
He's
think...
taking it as an excuse to stop her from going.
Oh, come on. You really are reading... You're reading far too much into it. It's like she's just left with the family, and when he says, I'm going to stop Phoebe, I don't think he just means, I'm going to stop Phoebe. What he's saying is, Phoebe is literally currently on her way with the family that this guy is out to kill back to the house. So he's like, we got to stop her. We got to go back and get her.
But then we get a fun little scene where Mulder bursts in the house at Cape Cod to find Phoebe and I forget the guy's name in a clinch.
Yeah. So this Marsden guy basically.
And you can literally see the heartbreak on Mulder's face.
See, again, it's not heartbreak. It's like his expectations have been confirmed. It's disappointment, I think. I think he's genuinely disappointed because he's said all along that she's a manipulator, that she's bad news, and he allowed her to get a little bit closer to him. And basically he walks in to find that actually everything he said about her, everything he knows about her is true. She's confirmed it, and he's disappointed. I think deep down there was maybe a little bit of him that was hoping maybe she's changed her ways. In the 10 years that they've not seen each other, he's changed. He said that earlier in the episode. So maybe there was a little bit of hope there that maybe she's changed too. But he realises in that moment, she hasn't changed. She's exactly the same person. And I think he's just like, you know what? Yeah. What should I have expected from you?
Mm-hmm. So in the next scene, Scully arrives and says it's the driver. The people correct him and say that's not the driver. That's Bob, the housekeeper, groundkeeper, whatever it is. Mm. And then they stumble into the driver's bathroom and find a fantastically grotesque corpse, kind of almost stuck in the actions of being sick into the toilet, it looks like, when he's exploded.
But it is my only question is, how the hell did his burning flesh not get smell from somebody in that house before they left? Because I'm presuming this guy would have been killed before they went to that dinner. Mm-hmm. So before they left, like when the driver went missing, because they said he'd been taken ill, hadn't they? And then and then later they say he's gone missing. I don't know. It's a bit hazy, but surely the smell of his burning flesh would have.
It's not even that. It's the fact when you see the body, there is nothing round about him that seems to be touched by any flame whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a clean bathroom. Like surely the walls would be a bit singed. Something would be a bit singed with the heat.
Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, I have seen cases of spontaneous combustion, and it is bizarre how actually sometimes, often, very little around the person is actually burnt. But
and then let me know if I'm following it here. But the building sort of catches fire.
Well, not yet. If you remember, Mulder goes to get the kids.
Right.
I think Bob or Cecil, or whatever you want to call him, he's basically trapped the kids, hasn't he? Or trapped the family in the room, and he's set fire. Because don't forget,
I've got a note here before we get to the bit where Bob sets the hallway on fire. I think the house is already on fire, isn't it? Or some of it's on fire.
Yeah. So he's basically kick-started that, hasn't he? He's trapped the family in, and he's going to try and burn them down.
Yeah. So the house is on fire, and then for some reason, they know that the place is coated in rocket fuel. The house is on fire, and Mulder turns to Scully and tells her to go get an extinguisher. And I'm like, what's she going to do with a small extinguisher in this house doused with rocket fuel? Is she going to like? I don't know. I don't know why she's doing that. So then Mulder goes looking for the kids, but Bob finds them first, and then this is a terrific scene where they really shot the fire fantastically when he clicks his fingers.
Time to call 911. I love that line. I just love the way he delivers it.
The little click of the fingers, the hallway erupts into flames. It does that cool running across the roof. Strange thing. It looks amazing. It's really well shot. And Mulder's looking for the kids. Bob runs away and leaves Mulder in amongst all these flames, and Scully pulls a gun on him. And he says, and this is brilliant, "You won't shoot me because you don't know if a spark could set this full place off." Yeah. While there's a roaring fire behind him. Which I thought was absolutely brilliant. Like a spark for the gun could set the full place up, but there's a fire on the second story right behind you. And as he walks down the stairs, Phoebe pops out of nowhere and just chucks a tin of rocket fuel over him.
Yeah.
And he just runs outside. And then we see Mulder, who's got the kids. Finally, second time round, he managed to save them.
Yeah. So he conquers his fear.
Mm-hmm. And then we have Bob out in the garden with everybody watching him. It just sets himself on fire and laughs maniacally.
This is the thing. Does he set himself on fire? Or is it more that because he's so covered in this accelerant, he's unable to, to not kind of set himself on fire, if you get my meaning?
Yeah, I don't know, because when he does it, he's like, "You can't kill me," and he's laughing the full time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if it was just it could have been. Could have been either way.
I think it's quite ambiguous the way it's done. I just for some reason, like the way I read it is that because he gets the rocket fuel poured on his face, I feel like it's almost like he can't quite control. Because he's also in a bit of a rage. He's in a bit of a I don't know. I think the rage mixed with the accelerant just sends him up. I don't know, but he knows obviously that it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you try and burn me. Fine, burn me. I'll heal. So he just laughs it off basically. So he's burning, and he's just it's this really freaky moment where he's just laughing it off.
It's terrifying. And then Scully again gives Mulder a little shock with English accent. And she asks where Phoebe's going, and Mulder just says she's gone, and it's almost as if he's had closure on the subject.
Yeah,
it's done and done with. She's away, gone forever. Bye bye, Phoebe.
Yeah, thankfully.
And Scully does a little wrap up and is talking about Cecil Bob, who is still alive, believe it or not, and held in a sort of, is that a cylindrical tube kind of?
Yeah, it's like an oxygen tank, isn't it?
Yep.
Something like that.
And that's a really freaky image just to finish the episode off.
And I love when he opens his eyes and you hear his eyes kind of, because the skin is stuck together from the heat. I love how when he opens his eyes you hear this little click kind of sound.
I'm dying for a cigarette.
Yeah, I'm just dying for a cigarette. Yeah, but yes, it's great.
Yeah, so overall, I wasn't a fan of this episode. There was just something underlying that just put me off, and I think it's the way that Scully was sidelined. I find the episodes far more enjoyable when these two are together and working together and utilising both of their strengths, which this one doesn't really seem to do. And Mulder's not really himself in this episode, and that could be partially due to this horrible character of Phoebe, who seems to have him wrapped around his finger. Regardless of the whether I see sexual tension and you don't or not, it's just not a part of the episode that I really enjoy seeing these two together. I don't like their interactions. I don't feel it rewarding in any way, shape or form. I would rather see them, Scully and Mulder, interacting more than these two. The bad guy, I think, is generally pretty good. I like that actor. The work with the fire is exceptional. It looks amazing. And even the charred bodies is fantastic. But I think overall, you've talked me up a little bit, but not too much. I'm going to have to give it 2.5 out of 5.
Man alive.
Man alive.
Man alive. Yeah, look, we definitely disagree on this one. This is still one of my favourites from the first season. I get why people hate it. I get why people don't like it. You know, you're using this character that isn't likable to pull Mulder away from Scully, but in doing that, it reveals just how close Mulder and Scully are and why they need each other. You know, we talk about the way in which Mulder is able to be open and honest with Scully, like it's nothing. He doesn't have to work at that relationship. It's just natural. And I think that moment is all the more rewarding because of what we've seen with him and Phoebe. I think the villain is fantastic. This is one of my favourite villains in the X-Files. If they ever did a movie like Wrath of Khan, where they brought back a villain from the TV show and made a movie out of it, I would be quite happy to see this guy come back into a movie. If not Eugene Toombs, then this guy, yeah, by all means. I don't like the character of Phoebe, but again, like I said at the beginning, we're not meant to. I like what she represents. I like how she kind of forces Mulder to, in a way, deal with certain aspects of his personality, of his character, of his psychology. And I think ultimately, by having her come back into his life and then leave, it leaves him in a stronger position with Scully at the end. I think he's going to recognise the strength of his and Scully's relationship as a result of that, as you know, coming from this manipulative relationship to one that is actually built on honesty and trust. I like the episode. I always have. I still do, and I give it a 4 out of 5.
Okay, fair enough. So next episode we have Beyond the Sea coming up. What about that, Brian? Is that a good episode, a bad episode, indifferent? Will we be arguing yet again?
Right. I'll say this right now. If the episode still holds up on this viewing, it's my favourite episode of the first season.
Wow.
Okay.
That's a big statement indeed.
It is.